Hi friends, do you know what will we talk about today? Yes, that's it. Today we are going to speak about the water cycle. As you know, the Earth is the planet we live on, and it is also known as the blue planet. Do you know why? That's because 3/4 of the planet's surface is water. Water is very important because without it there would be no life. Without it, this cute little seal wouldn't exist, or these playful bears, or even us, human beings. That's why we must look after it. We should conserve our water well, and most of all, we should maintain our rivers and oceans clean. Remember that.
Before explaining the water cycle, we have to remember which are the states of the water. As you all know, the water can be found in 3 different states: in solid, in liquid, or in gas state, depending on the temperature it has. When it is very, very cold, the water is in solid state, like you can see on these ices. When it is a little bit warmer, the water is in liquid state, like in the rivers, in the oceans, or even the water we drink is also in liquid state, like this. Finally, when the water is very, very hot, it turns into gas or vapor. For example, in this pot, we can see vapor. Now that we have reviewed all these concepts, we are ready to talk about the water cycle.
The water cycle is the set of processes that happens all around the world. It has 4 stages: evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and collection. The first stage is called evaporation, and it happens when the sun hits the water and it turns into gas. And it goes flying to the sky and turns into a cloud. It gets cold in the atmosphere and it turns into a cloud. This stage is called condensation.
Once the water has turned into clouds, it continues its amazing journey. They are blown by the wind, traveling from one place to another. Clouds are tiny little drops of water suspended in the air. But when the clouds grow, they collect more and more water, and these water drops then become bigger and bigger. Then at some point, they end up falling to the ground in the form of rain or even snow when it is so cold. This stage is called precipitation. The water that falls to the ground may land in rivers or even on the ground to then seep through to subterranean currents of water. This stage is called collection, and all this water continues its long journey until it finally reaches the sea.
When it arrives at the big blue sea, it will once again begin the process. That's why it is called the water cycle, because it is a never-ending cycle. Isn't that incredible?
Okay, so now we have explained the water cycle, we are going to review 4 processes and give some examples. Melting happens when solid turns into liquid. For example, when we have a Coca-Cola with ices, the ice melts because the water is warmer than the ice. Instead of Coca-Cola, here we have water with ices. We have to wait for a few minutes to see what happens. Few minutes later, we can see that there are not ices. There is just liquid water. Freezing happens when liquid turns into solid. For example, if we put a water bottle into the fridge, the liquid water turns into ice. If we put into the fridge liquid water, we will see what happens after it. So after some minutes,
we can see that the water is not liquid. Now it's ice.
Evaporation is the process of turning the liquid into vapor, and that happens, for example, when we are having a shower and the mirror gets evaporated. Here we can see just water, and now we can see how the mirror gets evaporated because the water have become into vapor. Condensation is the process of turning vapor or gas into liquid. For example, when the shower is finished, the evaporated water begins to get cold and it turns into liquid water. That's the reason why sometimes we can see drops in the glass. Here we can see how the gas has turned into liquid. When the shower is finished, the evaporated water in the mirror begins to get cold and it turns into liquid water. Finally, we want to mention that the change from ice to vapor and from vapor to ice can also happen, even though it's not as common as the other changes. The change from vapor to ice is called deposition, and the change from ice to vapor is called sublimation.